Welcome to You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. You are ambitious in life and in your career, but something is missing. You want to bring more of your passion to what you do. Because let's be honest, you pour a ton into your work, and it needs to mean more. I'm your host, Laura Eigel. I'm a mom, wife, PhD, coach, advocate, introvert, and indoor rowing fanatic. I'm passionate about living a life that's in line with my values. We'll give you the actionable tips and tools you need to lead with your values, make a difference, and have career success. The world needs more diversity and authenticity in the top jobs at organizations. Your leadership belongs there. You belong in the C-Suite. What gets you up in the morning? What drives your decisions? What do you stand for? No idea, not even sure where to start? I use my values to guide my life and career. It's the basis of how I've built boundaries for myself and stuck to them. Are you ready to dig into what matters to you? Go to thecatchgroup.com to download your free values worksheet. That's thecatchgroup.com to download your free values worksheet to get to your core values and take action on what matters most. Welcome to this week's episode of the You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. Last week, we held our first ever retreat for our You Belong in the C-Suite group coaching alumni. It was the idea of one of our participants, and I'm so glad that she asked for it. I will most likely talk about it in greater detail in an upcoming episode, but I wanted to share one theme that came out of it. In the retreat, all of the leaders had at some point identified their values. Some did that exercise years ago when they first joined group coaching, and some had done it more recently. And in the retreat, we did a values check-in, which is an exercise from my book, Values First. You can grab this exercise by downloading the workbook at thecatchgroup.com/valuesfirst. Each leader at the retreat spent time to intentionally check in on their values. For some, their values have remained constant, and revisiting them was a validation of sorts. For others, the check-in showed that some of their values had evolved over time, and they reflected on those insights. What was important most now versus what was not as important as before. Both of these insights are really powerful, and both happen. That's why it's so important to do a values check-in, to reflect on your values, understand how and where you are living them, see what needs to evolve, and understand what to celebrate or what to recalibrate. I suggest to do a values check-in every 90 days or so. So, since our retreat participants did theirs recently, I'm going to walk you through that exercise today by sharing this episode from season 3, which will walk you through the values check-in exercise. Let's get started. So I'm going to walk you through an exercise that I did using the values check-in, which is an exercise that's available in my book, Values First, and in the Values First workbook. That's the workbook that accompanies the book. It has over 50 pages of self-reflection exercises that you can download for free at thecatchgroup.com/valuesfirst. So go grab that. But before we dig into the values check-in, I want to set the stage. So I've mentioned this in podcasts before, but the week in between Christmas holiday and New Year's, you know, that week that feels like you don't even know what day it is and that like time doesn't exist. I love that week. Some people hate it, but this is one of my favorite weeks of the year. During that week, my husband and I have a tradition to spend time with each other and to do goal setting. So we usually do this without the kids. So shout out to my parents for watching our kiddos again while we did this planning again this year. So this year we spent time at a new coffee shop and sat outside. That's another one of my favorite things to do, sitting outside. And the weather is really nice here in Texas right now, so we're able to do that. So we kind of deep dived into some of the things, and I keep a Trello board of our goal setting chats. Yes, I do this. Remember, achievement runs through my veins. And so I track this stuff just to document and recall what we talked about the previous year, and so that we don't have to recreate the wheel. Anyway, so we talked about what we went through in the previous year, what we liked. So what we thought went successfully. So from how we spent our time or how we spent our money or things that made us happy, like taking vacations with the kids, staying committed to workouts, cooking. We had some really great morning routines for our family. We also talked about things that we didn't think went as well, like not getting enough sleep or getting too much screen time, for instance. This is a tangent, but another question that I love that we ask each other: how do you want me to show up to best support you this year? So, for instance, I asked Brian, for me to support you, how do you want me to show up for you? So I love this question so much. So instead of him supporting me how he thinks I need him or things he wants to do for me, he asks me and I can tell him what would be most helpful. So no guessing needed. It's always really great discussion that we have. And during the day, we also look at financial goals and set individual goals and tell each other those goals for the year. So in preparation for that conversation, I did a values check-in, and I want to walk you through that. And I hope that you can spend some time to do your values check-in as well. The values check-in is something that I like to do every 90 days or so, or once a quarter, to check in with my values. And it's a thing that I think keeps it sustainable. It allows for change. It allows for evolution. I'm not locked into the same thing the whole year. And so that's what I love about this. So in preparation for that conversation, I did the values check-in. And I'm just a huge proponent of using these tools. I'm not going to teach you about something or do something that I don't consistently do myself. So I think there's too much out there like that. You know, the saying, the cobbler's children don't have shoes. So you've probably heard me talking about the importance of modeling behavior. And modeling behavior is one of the most important things that we can do as leaders. And then talk about what you're doing. So I want to do this here with you. I want to be able to model what is working and what isn't working for my team, for myself, so that it reminds you to do that same thing. And that modeling gives others permission to do the same. So this is me modeling using my own tools. My award-winning book, Values First: How Knowing Your Core Beliefs Can Get You the Life and Career You Want, is now available in audiobook. Since the book released just last year, the biggest question that I've gotten from readers is it available in audiobook? In this book, you'll get to hear my most pivotal career stories and some of the successes of my clients as you learn about the Values First framework and how you can take action on your life and career. The audiobook is narrated by me, so if you love this podcast, you'll love the audiobook. Values First: How Knowing Your Core Beliefs Can Get You the Life and Career You Want is now available on Audible and iTunes. So first and foremost, to check in on your values, you need to know what your values are. If you're just joining this community and podcast or never got around to doing this, then this is a really great time to do it. You can get the values worksheet, which helps you identify your values, and lots of other great stuff like the values check-in in that Values First workbook that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. So take a minute, pause this, go grab it if you haven't already. Go to thecatchgroup.com/valuesfirst and download the whole workbook and come back to us. So that's where I'm starting with my values check-in. And if you have that Values First workbook, I'm on page 15 of that workbook. I started by listing out my core values of family, growth, development, advocacy, achievement, and balance. And then I answered the question, how is this value showing up in my life? Followed by the question, how do I feel about it? So for this example, I'm not doing a retrospective for the past year. I'm doing current state. How do I currently feel about my values right now? So I did this for each of my values, and I'll share one that I'm feeling really great about and one that I'm not feeling not so great about. So for my value of growth, I answer the question, how is that value showing up in my life? So I love growth, and I define growth as my personal and professional growth. So I'm a personal development and leadership junkie. So sometimes I can over-index on this. I have a business bestie that I always check in with before I sign up for something else because she knows that sometimes, not sometimes, always, I overcommit here because of the value of growth and because of the value of achievement. Those two together make me want to do all of the programs and learn all of the things right now. So for this one, I decided to not enroll in one program and push another one back to the end of the year because I knew I was overcommitted. So currently I am part of two programs that I'm excited about that will grow me in different ways in my business. And I'm excited for both of those opportunities. And so how do I feel about this value of growth? I feel really good about it and I'm excited about it for the year. Next, my value of balance. So you know that this doesn't mean work-life balance. You know I do not believe in that. Instead, I believe in prioritizing what's important. So how have I been prioritizing what I call balance? Where is this showing up in my life? So I'm still exercising most days, which these days looks like either indoor rowing or taking a 2 to 3 mile walk. I feel in control of the day. I'm taking multiple days off during the month. I'm reading a lot, although I need to get more fiction books in my queue. So send me any of your suggestions on fiction books, please, as an aside. But I'm not feeling super great about balance holistically because of that screen time that I mentioned before and that not sleeping as much as I should be. So to put it simply, I'm just too connected to screens, work screens, my phone, and shows on Netflix, for example. So the next part of the values check-in is to answer the question, what will you celebrate and what will you recalibrate moving forward? So for my value of growth, I'm going to celebrate my first wins in those professional development programs. And I'll do that by sharing successes in those communities. And I'm also going to do that by treating myself to alone time each month for an activity I enjoy, like a spa appointment or something. Remember, alone time is important for me because I'm an introvert. That's how I recharge. For my value of balance, I'm going to recalibrate. I need to recalibrate my nighttime routine. I'm going to do that by putting in some boundaries. And I've started to do a few things, but I will be honest, I need some accountability. I am always recalibrating the boundaries that I need. And when I think about boundaries, I don't think about them as barriers or walls or strict rules. I think about boundaries as a way for me to really invest in my values, to nurture those values, to ensure that I'm prioritizing them. I cannot wait to see what this year holds for all of us. And I'm excited to start the year out at my own pace, to set some realistic goals, but with the mindset of intentionality and grace for myself. And I wish the same for you. Remember, your leadership belongs here. You belong in the C-suite. I want to thank you so much for listening to the You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. If you are enjoying this content, please remember to rate and review on Apple Podcasts. By leaving a review, you are helping others find this content. We will be featuring 5-star reviews on air in upcoming episodes. Editing and support for the podcast is done by S&E Podcast Management. To get more tips and tools to help you live a life guided by your values, go to thecatchgroup.com. Keep your boundaries and take care.